In all, a half a pound of butter is added, and the sauce is strained.
Push down on it, all the herbs and the shallots and the lemon to get all the flavor out of them. Then you want to season your sauce to taste with salt and some fresh ground black pepper. Tastes good. What you want to do with this is hold it in a warm area, not too hot, not too cool, otherwise the sauce is going to break. Ideally for us, it's right here on top of the oven.
A garnish for the dish is mixed nuts combined with caramelized sugar and butter. An eggplant slice and the crawfish go into the seasoned flour.
And just coat them with the seasoned flour. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our eggplant in, fry that for about a minute and a half on each side. And put our crawfish in there. These crawfish take about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. You don't want to overcook them or they won't taste as good. Pull them out, put them on a paper towel just to drain some of the excess oil off them. So to assemble the dish, what we want to do is take our eggplant, put it in the middle. Just stack our crawfish up on top of the eggplant, give it a little height, and we'll take our sauce. Drizzle it around the plate, a little bit over the crawfish. Garnish it with our caramelized nuts. And our chive sticks.
In 1997, Norman Van Aken was named Best Chef Southeast by the Beard Society, and his namesake restaurant in the Miami area was named one of America's top tables in Gourmet Magazine's Reader's Poll. What he calls New World cuisine is a celebration of South Florida product, like Key West yellowtail.
The pan-cooked filet of Key West yellowtail is a very, very simple Key West sort of dish, and what I wanted to do there was present it with the citrus butter sauce. So I've got an orange butter that I'm going to prepare with a reduction of freshly squeezed orange juice, a little bit of champagne vinegar, some shallots, and some cracked black pepper and bay leaf. And basically what we'll do is we'll put all of these elements into a saucepan or a small saute pan for here, and we'll just reduce this down to get the flavors kind of nicely intense. Okay, for the amount of reduction we have here, we're just going to add about a half a cup of heavy cream or less. We don't want to obscure the flavors of the reduction with too much cream, but we need the liaison between the cream and the butter to hold the sauce together. We go ahead with the addition of the butter, and as ever, it's important that the butter is added just a little bit at a time, so that the butter can be incorporated without breaking.
Half a pound of butter is added and the sauce is strained. The chef prepares the yellowtail.
Okay, the yellowtail is a very delicate fish, and so it sort of needs a little protection from the heat of the pan. And one of the old ways we've done this in Key West for years was to dip it first into flour. And one thing I look for after I dip it in the flour is I'll look at the fish to see if there's any scales still on it, because they'll show up a little bit better with the flour on them. They'll sort of show you themselves if you missed them before. This one's good though. And then into just a little beaten egg with a little bit of half and half. And this very golden, lacy sort of exterior later on is how the fish is presented. Back in Key West in the old days, a lot of the local people who are called conchs would eat yellowtail for breakfast. Much the way we eat steak and eggs in the Midwest, yellowtail for breakfast. One of the things I also do is when I flour the fish is I don't want too much flour on it, so I'll give it a little spank just to get the extra flour off there. Again, looking to see if there's any scales. And there's not. You can actually put the fish in the eggs like this and then cover them up 8 hours in advance if you wanted to. It's not going to be a problem for the fish. I think one of the reasons that this dish is the most popular dish in the restaurant is the mashed potatoes. What we've got here is a little bit of roasted garlic cloves and a little bit of heavy cream. And all we do is we just take a little bit of the heavy cream and heat them with a little garlic. And we'll set those aside. Once they're nice and warm, we'll set those aside and keep them warm in a place until we're ready to pick up the fish. I've got some potatoes which have been removed of the skins, quartered and steamed, and we keep these warm in a nice warm place, but we do not pre-mash them. Sauteing the yellowtail, it's really important that we have a hot pan, and we use clarified butter in this particular case. One of the few times I do use butter when cooking fish, but I'll show you why too. You want to put just enough butter in there to get the bottom of the pan fully coated, and you can pour back any that's not. And then you take the fish, lift it up, and take the curved side into the pan. It's important that you get that searing effect, because that really is what makes the fish lock its flavors in and gives us that kind of lacy egg coating that we want. Not enough butter will cause the fish to kind of get a little sticking, so I'm going to add just a touch more. And this butter, of course, is very hot right now, so just be careful that you don't splash any toward yourself. When I flip the fish, I'll tip the pan so the butter's away from me and come onto that side right there. Once it's seared on both sides, we'll just drain off the extra butter and go ahead and go into the oven.
The temperature of the oven is about 425 degrees. The fish is warmed for about 6 minutes.
Sometimes, a lot of people won't get yellowtail snapper, so they'll get red snapper or something like that where the fish could be thicker. So, and we like to cook this yellowtail till it's just barely done. It's not served medium rare like, say, a tuna or swordfish.
The citrus butter sauce is strained and the roasted garlic mashed potatoes are prepared.
We have our warm garlicky cream here. Just scoop that onto them. A little bit of butter, a little bit of salt, and I use sea salt or kosher salt, a little bit of freshly toasted and ground black pepper, and if you like, and we like, a little bit of white truffle oil, and just mash them up. If the texture's a little bit too loose, add a little bit more potato. And if it's too stiff, a little bit more of the garlic cream would be added. And you can use your potato masher or something like that. It doesn't really matter. So, we don't like the potatoes too perfect. Some people even may want to leave the skins on. Now, to make sure that the potatoes are nice and hot, once they're mashed like that for maybe 30 seconds, I toss them back into the oven while I assemble the plate. We've done a little bit of blanched and grilled asparagus spears, which go really with the citrus butter sauce very nicely. We take the mashed potatoes, still warm from the oven now, and we'll create our belly. Here's the belly of mashed potatoes. Just put them on there like this. Spoon a little bit of the butter sauce down. A little of the potatoes too. And the yellowtail, which we're going to kind of mound over those mashed potatoes to give them that nice big fat belly we're talking about. Then I'm going to garnish with a little bit of blood orange, the blood orange is the juice of which can be used in the reduction as well if you like. And then a little bit of fresh thyme. Thyme goes well with citrus. And there it is.
Bacchanalia is a relaxed operation owned by Ann Quatrano and Clifford Harrison. They cooked in New York, and in 1990 both won Rising Star Awards from the Beard Society. In 1997, the restaurant was a gourmet top table winner. Chef Quatrano with Colleen Hilke offers Kona Coffee ice cream sandwich.
Okay, go on, you can start. Colleen is making the Kona Coffee ice cream. She's adding sugar to the heavy cream and half, as well as vanilla extract and a coarsely ground Kona coffee. We steep the coffee in the heavy cream till it comes up to a boil.
Egg yolks will be combined with the heavy cream.
And the cream comes to a boil. We're going to ladle it one ladle at a time, just to temper the eggs lightly. Pour the entire egg mixture back in to just finish the cooking process. And all I'm doing is turning this lightly. You never want to add any air to your ice cream base. I've turned the heat off and it's just a nice thick custard. We'll strain it through a very fine sieve and we'll freeze it.
A chocolate genoise starts by beating egg yolks and sugar until pale and thick. Bittersweet chocolate is melted in unsalted butter.
We're beating the egg yolks and the sugar until it's very light yellow and very thick, about double the volume of the original volume.
Sweetened egg whites are beaten to the stiff peak stage.
Right now she's going to fold some flour into her egg and sugar mixture. going to fold in the chocolate mixture, chocolate and butter into the egg and sugar. She's going to fold the chocolate in gently, trying not to lose any of the volume.
The last procedure will be folding the beaten egg whites into this yolk chocolate mixture.
Fold until the egg whites are incorporated. Then she's going to smooth it out onto a sheet pan that has been greased with parchment and then greased on top of the parchment as well.
The batter is smoothed and the cake is baked at 350 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes. The coffee ice cream sits atop a large slice of the sponge cake.
It's okay if it's not exact because we trim it down to size. Place it right on top. Got it?
The sandwich is cut into wedges for presentation.
A little chocolate sauce.
Welcome to Great Chefs, a culinary tour of the United States featuring some of the country's finest chefs.
This time, the first course is cooked at City Grocery in Oxford, Mississippi by chef-owner John Currants. It's a smoked oyster timbal with fried Tabasco cheese grits. Then, from the Minneapolis area, Ernst Conrad dresses up that Midwestern staple, pork, in a cordon bleu presentation. Note the use of plastic wrap to shape the roll. Dessert is created by Jean-Luc Albin from his pastry shop at Metairie in the New Orleans area. It's a custard-filled tart jeweled with fresh glazed fruit. John Currents was born and raised in New Orleans and began his career in some of the city's hot restaurants, including a sort of postgraduate degree in business and marketing from the Commander's Palace branch of the Brennan family. From his own place in Oxford, here's a timble of smoked oysters.
All right, the first step in preparing this dish is we're going to take our method that we feel like we've perfected to some extent of smoking on top of the stove without getting into an external smoker situation, where we just take a hotel pan, put a nice mound of hickory chips in the bottom of it, and take a blowtorch to get the chips started smoking. The oysters, since they're stored in their own liquor, don't require much of a brining process in order to keep them from drying out. We just smoke them very lightly. I'm going to season them with a little bit of pepper and some shallot here real quickly. That should be just about started. I've got the about 2 pounds of oysters here, and I'm going to sprinkle just with a little bit of cracked black pepper, a little bit of shallot for some extra flavor. Again, nothing too terribly scientific about this. This is in a perforated pan so that the oysters will lose a little bit of their water as they start smoking, which will go ahead and slow the smoking process down just a little bit. So hit these on real quickly. Cover them with a sheet of aluminum foil. Got a sort of a medium flame underneath them that'll provide the heat to keep the fire going briefly, just long enough to smoke those oysters. And we're going to smoke them about, I'm going to say 12 to 15 minutes. So while that's going on, we'll have the rest of our ingredients to prepare. This is, as I said, going on the fried Tabasco cheese grit cakes. We go through a lot of cheese grits on our signature dish here. So what we'll do is salvage them at the end of the night, lay them out on a sheet pan, and cut them the following day. And we'll just drop these down in a stovetop fryer at about 325 degrees. With that all working for us, what we do for this particular timbale is we take just regular 1.5 PVC that you can get at the hardware store, cut into about 4 or 5 inch segments, and we'll start filling it at this point. Okay, after about 12 or 15 minutes, when you unwrap the oysters from the smoker, what you should have is, they won't all be perfect by virtue of the fact of the varying sizes, but your medium to large size oysters should still be nice and plump. They've gotten a little brown from the smoking here, but they're not dried up. The inside should be very visible, nice looking, but it should be a nice plump oyster that you're going to work with. So what we'll do is first we have a few smoked oysters here that should be enough, just about enough for what we've got. We're going to take a little bit of prepared chopped Texas smoked bacon that we use to make the bottom layer. The bacon works well because it creates sort of a nice solid foundation for the rest of the timbale, because you're getting into a sort of a vertical presentation here. It has the tendency to fall over if it's not done just right. So we use the bacon as the base. We'll come in with some chiffonade spinach. And then a few oysters. As you can see, these oysters still are nice and puffy. They haven't lost all of their water. So we'll stuff those down in there, kind of nice. And we just use our house citrus vinaigrette. You can use whatever you really like. It doesn't really matter. This creates just sort of a binder for the whole thing. We'll come over the top and just spoon a little of that in there. Then we'll come back with another layer of bacon. Some more chiffonade spinach. And then a few more oysters will go on top. The best thing to do with this is after it's assembled like this, to go ahead and put it in the refrigerator for 30 or 45 minutes so all the ingredients come to the same temperature. It gives the vinaigrette a little bit of time to bind it, and it gives it a little more of a sturdy construction. So, take the back of the spoon to mash this down a little bit with. Okay, grit cakes come out. They're nice and browned at this point. Should be a little crispy on the outside. Take the grit cakes. Again, you need to consider finding the flattest surface to set this up on. Again, so that it will maintain its structural integrity. Then remove, as I forgot to say that the bottom of here, I'll wrap this in plastic just to hold it so that when you pick it up, you don't have to worry about it sliding out of the bottom. Come over the top of that with a little more of our vinaigrette. Some concassé of tomato.
Austrian-born Ernst Conrad began his career at his mother's restaurant, then entered the absolute monarchy of the European apprentice system. Rising through the stations of various hotels from Berlin to Tel Aviv, he opened Conrad's Bistro in Minnesota. His entree is sesame pork tenderloin.
Okay, for the preparation of this dish, we should have a nice equal piece of center-cut pork tenderloin, preferably to use the loin of a younger pork, which is nice and pink. If the pig is older or bigger grown, the darker the meat gets and the tougher it will be. So the nice light-colored pink tenderloin, which we butterfly cut, we call that the butterfly cut, to open it up, just like this. Pound it out a little. Okay. And then we put slice of ham, fresh spinach leaves, right on top of each other, just like that. There's no big fuss. Cheddar cheese in the center. And the idea about this dish was actually called to have a combination of East and West ingredients. So roll it over. And then we wrap it in plastic. Okay. You roll it tight in a saran wrap plastic. Roll it up to get a nice round and uniform shape.
At this point, the pork roll can be put into the freezer to stiffen up.
Gently open up. See that it keeps the shape. And then we bread it. Just very basic in flour. Egg wash. And then in that mix of breadcrumbs and sesame seeds.
The roll is then deep fried until golden brown.
So after the braiding process, we would deep fry it for about 1 minute to get this golden brown color, and then bake it in the oven for about 12 minutes by 375 degrees.
The sauce is started by softening chopped shallots in olive oil.
Little garlic and tomato strips. I will be serving, garnishing this dish with tri-colored spätzles today.
Spätzle is the German dumpling, and these have been cooked and are warmed through in butter.
Into the sauce I add a little beef jus. Remove it from the heat and add fresh butter. Season a little salt and pepper. And in the very end, I add the chopped up sorrel leaves. We keep this sauce on the side. Since we added the butter, you cannot bring it back to the heat, because then the butter would separate and the sauce would break. Now in the meantime, I have here about 4 carrots and 4 parsnips cooked in water with a little salt. What we try to do is we cook it very soft and then mush it up. Now we have to check the pork if it's done, which I think they are. We're going to get ready to plate this dish. I put that puree in the middle of the plate. Cut the tenderloins on a bias into 3. We arrange the sauce. Put the tenderloin on top of the sauce. And the 3 colored spätzles in between. Okay. And I like to garnish it with just parsnip sticks, which is very simple to do. You just peel the parsnips, cut little sticks out of it, and deep fry them shortly until they're brown and ready to stand up. So little greens in between. To make this plate nice and pretty.
Jean-Luc Albin was born in a town near the French Alps. His father was a chef, so Jean-Luc took naturally to cooking. His training was in France, then in hotels in Bermuda and New Orleans. He worked in Dallas and Los Angeles before opening his pastry shop in Metairie. Here is his fruit tart. A sugar dough for the tart shell is started with 3 eggs, 5½ ounces of powdered sugar, and 7 ounces of butter. An interesting flavor factor is orange blossom water. Now the butter is added.
This recipe is great for sugar cookies. You make the same recipe, you make great cookies.
This is 18 ounces of cookie flour.
Let's make it simple. How about that?
The dough is chilled before it is rolled out.
In order to pre-bake that shell nice and evenly, what I do is I take a piece of parchment paper, then I cut, and I put some beans. As you can see, red beans, black beans, white beans, navy beans, all kind of beans. And I bring them all the way to the side. And I'm gonna stick it just like that, just in the oven. And I would say for about 20 to 25 minutes. Nice hot oven, I would say about 375. And as you can see, you have a nice flat bottom and a nice straight edge. You remove delicately the ring.
The tart is filled with a basic vanilla custard.
Any fresh fruit of the season are wonderful. You can get some fresh peaches, nectarine, it's very good with mango. I happen to have some fresh cherries here, why not cherries? How about some blueberries? Dress it up again. to make it even look prettier, I'm going to add a little apricot glaze, nice glaze.
This is an apricot glaze, but any clear fruit jelly that's melted will do.
Welcome to Great Chefs, a culinary tour of the United States featuring some of the country's finest chefs.
We begin at the Palace Cafe in New Orleans. It's one of the properties owned by the Brennan family of Commander's Palace fame. Chef Robert Bruce offers a crab meat Napoleon. Then from one of San Francisco's great seafood restaurants, Aqua, Chef George Marone does an entree of ahi tuna, foie gras, and portobello mushroom. Dessert comes from suburban Chicago. Chef Gabriel Vidi's namesake restaurant is the site for a confection called croustillon. Note the use of a chocolate ice cube to create a liquid center. At the time of taping, the executive chef at the Palace Cafe in downtown New Orleans was Robert Bruce. He joined the restaurant in 1995 after having worked under Paul Prudhomme and Emeril Lagasse at Commander's Palace. In 1997, the Palace Cafe won an Ivy Award. Here is the appetizer, sweet potato crab meat Napoleon.
What we're going to do here is we're going to do the sweet potato and crab meat Napoleon with Choupix creme fraiche. Okay, we have our fancy little mandolin here, which says watch your fingers because it is very sharp. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the blade so that it's about 1/16 of an inch thick. The thinner it is, the better off. And we're going to carefully, watching our fingers, slide the sweet potatoes down. Check for the thickness. That's way too thick. So you got to check it, make sure you're doing it right, because you don't want to do it all and then realize you messed it up and have to start over again. Okay, so I think this might be good right there. See, nice and thin. Slice about 6 or so, carefully. All right, and then on our sheet pan, we're going to lay them out. Our oven has been preheated to 300 degrees. And we're going to take some clarified butter here, also known as ghee, and we're going to brush the sweet potatoes. Okay. Season them. Salt and white pepper. All right, then we're going to turn them over.
Bake for about 45 minutes. Now the ravigote sauce.
And we're going to add egg yolks. Put 1 egg yolk in there. To that egg yolk, we're going to whisk it a bit. Add to that a pinch of salt, white pepper, some Dijon mustard from the Dijon region of France. We're going to whisk that momentarily. To that, we're going to drizzle our egg yolk, our olive oil in. We're going to drizzle our olive oil into the egg yolks, slowly at first, because it will break. And if it breaks, you need to start over again. This is extra virgin olive oil that I'm using right here, infused with a little bit of garlic. You can use whatever kind of oil you want. It really doesn't matter. You can use vegetable oil. As it starts to thicken, you want to thin it out a tad with some lemon juice, which is going to thin it out. You just want to add a little bit of lemon juice at first, so you get a nice little emulsion there. Okay. We can tighten it up a little bit more with the olive oil. So you want to add a little olive oil until it gets tight. Pour it on the side, incorporate it in. As it starts to thicken up, you want to thin it out with a little bit of lemon juice. So you alternate the lemon juice and the olive oil. To that emulsion, we're going to add some tarragon. Okay. Season it with salt and pepper again. To this mixture right here, we're going to add our jumbo lump crab meat. This is from the back fin of the Louisiana blue crab. It's an Epicurean's delight. My favorite crab meat in the world. Absolutely. We're going to toss that in with our vinaigrette, our emulsion. Take our rubber spatula, fold it around gently. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to reserve this. Now, I've taken liberty of making some creme fraiche, which is basically 1 part buttermilk to 4 parts heavy cream. It sits out overnight at about 100 degrees, and then it turns into kind of a cheese-like custard almost. Okay, we're going to use this to garnish our Napoleon. So what I have is the creme fraiche, and to that I'm going to add, and the Choupec caviar comes from a fish known as the Cypress trout, which is a big ugly fish, looks like a big gar. It's a local product. It's very good. I love this stuff. We're going to toss that in there. Gently fold it around so as not to break up the yolks too much. I mean, break up the eggs too much. If you break the eggs up, it starts to color everything kind of a darker purple. So we just want to fold it in a little bit. What we're going to do now is we're going to remove our sweet potatoes out of the oven, which are nice and brown now. Okay. We're going to carefully pick them up, drain them on the towel. We're going to do a Napoleon of 4 layers. And we're going to place our sweet potato down.
A dab of creme fraiche secures the slice.
A little bit of the crab meat on top of that. Whoops. Okay, if you can use a spoon, it's best. It's supposed to touch in your food. You don't want to touch it too much. Another layer of sweet potatoes. Carefully, so as not to make a mess. Whoops. Okay, this is a little fragile. Another layer of sweet potatoes. This is where it's getting a little bit scarier. A little bit harder to do. Got to be focused. Put a little bit less crab meat on every layer. And then we'll top it off with another piece of sweet potato. Take some brunoise of red onions. We're going to put those down on the plate down here. It's fine dice, it's a brunoise in French. And then we're going to put some chives down here also. We're going to take our Choupec creme fraiche, and we're going to put some on top of that there. All right? And then we're going to kind of put some around in the garnishes. Okay? Like so. And then to that, we're going to add a few more chopped chives on top, a few more red onions on top. We're going to garnish it with some small capers, nonpareil capers. And the final garnish is going to be some boiled egg yolk and some boiled egg white. And all I'm going to do is hold my grater above it and grate the egg yolks over it right onto the plate. This you want to do at the last moment. And also the egg whites. This also you want to do at the last moment. Then you have a very festive dish, which would be called a sweet potato and blue crab Napoleon with Chupik creme fraiche.
The entree comes from Aqua in San Francisco. The chef proprietor at taping time was George Marone. He has since left. After graduating from the CIA, he worked for heavy hitters, Charlie Palmer in New York and Brad Ogden at Campton Place in the Bay Area. Chef Marone offers ahi tuna with foie gras.
I'm going to do a tuna and foie gras, the Pinot Noir sauce today, and this is our signature dish here at Aqua. And this is a Hudson Valley foie gras from New York State, a whole lobe right here. We're going to portion that up for you and show you how we do that here at the restaurant.
Two slices of foie gras are cut. The chef will score them, which is more for decoration than any cooking necessity.
Have it portioned out here. 2.5 ounce medallions in about 1.5 ounce pieces of foie gras. The first thing we're going to do is grill our portobello mushrooms, and this is them in their raw state. And it's a nice, thick, meaty mushroom. What we do here at the restaurant is marinate them in olive oil, white wine vinegar, salt, pepper, garlic, and shallots. But a very meaty olive oil, which goes, very meaty mushroom because it goes with the dish. Tuna's on the meaty side, foie gras, of course, is duck liver. Apply a generous amount of salt. Since they're so thick that you're going to take a lot of salt to give them some flavor. A little bit of fresh cracked pepper. See how thick they are? They're almost like steaks themselves. And okay. Try to salt very evenly.
Spinach is wilted in some olive oil.
Spinach will do over a high heat. Mushrooms you don't want to heat too high, again, because you want a little bit of that toasty grill flavor, but you don't want to burn your mushrooms. Okay, we take our tuna, oil it lightly. Again, season the foie gras. pepper. Okay.
The tuna is grilled and a potato pancake is cut. The foie gras is seared in a trace of olive oil.
Okay. Take our tuna off while it's rare. Foie gras.
The grilled portobello is diced and will go into the sauce.
Now we're going to add our Pinot Noir demi-glace sauce to that. It's made with veal stock, Pinot Noir wine, finished with the portobello mushrooms. Our potato pancake on the bottom, sauteed spinach on top. Lines of tuna.
Chef Gabriel Vitti's credits are nothing to sneeze at. After graduating from the CIA, he worked for Joël Robuchon in Paris, Freddy Girardet in Switzerland, and Michel Girard in France. He also worked at Carlo's in Highwood. Here is his carefully constructed croustillon. The chocolate liquid center is started with boiling water.
Okay, once the water's boiling, you can add in your dried ingredients.
This is powdered milk, followed with sugar and cocoa powder. The mixture is whisked over heat.
Mix very well. And pass through a chinois in case there's any clumps or anything. Now we're ready to add it into our ice cuber.
The chocolate mixture is frozen. Meanwhile, the pastry cream is started with 2 cups of milk and the seeds from 1 vanilla bean. It goes over heat and is brought to a boil. Egg yolks are combined with sugar. Then dried gelatin and flour will be added and mixed until smooth and thick.
When the milk boils, you can add it into your egg and dried ingredients mixture. Make sure you get everything.
The mixture goes back into the pan and is mixed continuously.
And put that back onto high heat, mixing it very well all the time.